It's okay to let something give to swap out for something and you can get back to it. You got to sacrifice some things, but you got to prioritize yourself. You can do it all, but don't kill yourself trying to do it. If you can do it today, do it today. But if you can't, it's okay. Do something good for you and take care of your parents.
Hello, revolutionaries, and welcome to the Midlife Revolution, the show for busy, empowered women ready to transform their lives. I'm your host, Coach Angie, and today we have another incredible guest joining us, Ms. Nicole Denise Allen. Nicole is a proud native of Detroit, just like me. What up, though? If you know, you know. She's a seasoned advertising and marketing professional with nearly 3 decades of experience leading operations, managing talent, and overseeing major projects. Known for her expertise in strategy and execution, Nicole has built a remarkable career driving results across diverse industries. Beyond her corporate achievements, and what always excites me is what she's doing beyond her corporate life. Nicole is the founder of Tail-Labrations, a business born from her love of dogs. Since 2011, Tail-Labrations has created custom dog baskets and homemade treats and catering to both the pets and their owners. And in her personal time, Nicole enjoys vacationing, renovating her Idlewild Lake College, staying active with Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and spending quality time with friends, family, and her beloved dogs. So let's get into it. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course, of course. Well, let's get into what inspired you to take on this entrepreneurial journey with Tail-Labrations while holding down a full-time job. I know it was your love of dogs, but can we dive a little deeper into the why of this situation?
Sure. I started Tail-Labrations because, of course, like you said, my love of dogs. I'm a pet owner. I've had dogs all my life. As a kid, I had a dog. I had a little poodle named Baron Burgermeiser. He was my baby. I loved him. And then as an adult, I got a Shih Tzu named Pepper. And then I rescued another Shih Tzu to give Pepper a friend. And then I inherited my cousin's two little Yorkies, Chloe and Zoe. And so I had four dogs at I've actually had up to five dogs at one time, but I always have had multiple dogs. And I've said all of this because people on Facebook, people personally, everybody knows me as the dog lady or the dog whisperer because I talk about my dogs everywhere on Facebook, in person. Everybody knows Nicole and dogs. Nicole equals dogs, dogs equals Nicole. So one day in 2011, I went to a pet store and I always take my dogs to the pet store. That's their little outing. They love going bye-bye. I put them in the basket and I had them in the pet store. And this lady approached me and she's like, "Oh my God, you got a basket full of puppies." And I was like, "Yeah." And that's the reaction I always get when I go to a pet store. So this particular lady, she asked me, she goes, "Let me ask you this." She's holding this really cute little poodle. It was a puppy and so cute, so tiny. So she came up to me and she asked me, she says, "Can I see your dogs? Can I pet your dogs?" And I said, "Sure." And she says, "I was a cat lady. I'm a cat lady." She was like, I'm used to cats. And my son has given me this puppy. He brought me this puppy and I don't know what to do with it." She was like, "Can you guide me, since you have all these little dogs, on what I should buy? I'm in this pet store. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to buy first. You know, dogs are different from cats. What do I do? I need help." So I said, "Sure." So I took her along throughout the store and I got, helped her get everything with her basket. And she said to
Mhm.
me, she says, "Gosh, I wish there was something like a starter kit for dogs, for pet parents who are brand new." And
Mhm.
so that kind of stuck with me when she said that. So when I got home, I was telling it to my cousin. And it's funny because I tell you, every friend that has ever gotten a dog, including just recently, I've had somebody tell me that they're a fresh new dog parent and they've never been a dog person. What do they do? What do they get? And I gave them a list. So I was telling my cousin about it, and I said, people always call me. People always email me or text me or hit me up on Facebook and say, "Hey, I'm getting a puppy. Where do I start? What do I get?" And then people are always calling me for resources, like, where do you go get your dogs groomed? Where do you go to get their shots? What do you feed them? Where do you buy their clothes? What do you always do? So I was talking to my cousin, and we were kind of just, brainstorming, and he was like, "You really should do this." And I said, "Really should do what?" And he was like, "Put together a basket for new pet parents, a starter kit, so to speak." And I said, "You know what? You're right." So me and him both got excited, and I happen to have a extra whiteboard in my house because of work, my real job, my corporate American job. So I grabbed the whiteboard, and I had it downstairs because I also, and I can get into this later, I also was a adjunct teacher, a professor at a couple of community colleges teaching advertising and marketing. So I had this whiteboard up because I'm very process oriented. And so I out different stuff to keep me organized. So I brought this whiteboard upstairs from my basement, and me and my cousin started writing out what I would put in this basket, what I would do, and the different levels of baskets. And then I thought of a name. We played around with names, and then I asked my mom, because she's pretty creative, and she came up with the name. And she was like, "Why don't you call it Tail-Labrations, doggy gifts for all occasions?" And that's what I have on my shirt, doggy gifts for all occasions. Because she's like, "You're celebrating the dogs, right? You're doing these gift baskets, so you're celebrating the dogs, so call it Tail-Labrations." So I was like, I liked it. So my parents really invested in me. So my mom gave me the name, and my dad, I was telling him my idea, and he says, "Well, if you're really serious about this, Nicole, I am going to help you. And I'm going to help you by, whatever you need, I'm going to give you." He invested $5,000 in me. So I went, and well, actually my dad took me. We went up to Lansing, and I got my LLC, and I became legit. And then after that, it spun off to the things I was putting in the basket were of course, dog treats. And I was getting the dog treats. First, I was just getting them from local pet stores. And then I started going to pet expos, and I met different dog bakeries. And I was buying the dog treats from other dog bakeries. And at work, at my corporate job, every year they had these two bazaars, Christmas and spring bazaars. So I would set up a table. I'd have a vendor table, and I was selling my baskets. And so the lady, one of my coworkers, she was next to me selling her. She was a baker, and she would make cookies and cupcakes and cakes and stuff. Me and her got to talking, and she says, I've heard you mention that you bake cakes and you make pies and stuff in real life for your family, your friends." And I said, "Yeah, I do." And she says, "So where do you get these dog treats from?" And I said, "Oh, I get them from dog bakeries." And she was like, "So you don't bake your own treats?" And I said, "Well, no, why would I do that? I can't do that. They're dog treats." And she was like, "Why wouldn't you be able to do that? You make your own homemade pound cakes and, banana pudding, everything else." And she says, "You could bake dog treats yourself." So I said, "I don't think I could do that." And she says, "I challenge you. I'm giving you a homework assignment." She was like, "I want you to research some dog treat recipes, and I want you to bake the dog treats, test them out on your dog, test them out on some of your friends, and come back to me with your results." And I was like, "Are you serious?" She was like, "Yeah." So I'm always up for a challenge. I'm a person, I love a challenge. So I was like, "Okay." I was like, "I got you. I got you." I was like, "Bet." So I went home. I researched some dog treats. I tweaked them. And over time, I made them my own. And I took out this ingredient, swapped it for this. I tested them with my dogs, see what they liked. Gave a lot of treats out to friends who had dogs, and see what they liked. I mean, I'm telling you, I had a mixture of all kind of flavors, and I saw what worked. What treats expired quicker than others, what were harder to make than others, what took more ingredients and that type of thing. And I started really shaping my treats, and that just drove me. The more I just really had a passion, and I got into it, especially when I was hearing the feedback, and of course my dogs are always taste testers, and sometimes they would turn their nose up. Then sometimes they would just hoover in the kitchen like, I smell it, so I started perfecting my recipes, and I narrowed it down to about 6 recipes. And then I went and I actually took the step to get my recipes analyzed by the Department of Agriculture. So I got my guaranteed analysis,
I
and
love it.
oh yeah, and I got my license because I was like, I'm for real. I'm not just, I am making treats out of my house. And I did go get my safe serve certification, so I can go in the commercial kitchen, because my treats started getting popular. So I started pushing my treats at the very next bazaar that they had at work. Me and the lady, we sat our tables next to each other again, and I told her, look, I got my own treats now, and so she was like, good, okay, so how you gonna market them better? You work in marketing. So I was like, you know what? You're right. I got to market them really good. So I started playing with different bags and stuff like that. And then I got turned on to Detroit Tech Town, and going down. And I went to their retail boot camp. I got into that. I got really serious because my dog treats at those bazaars got popular, and I would sell out immediately. Like, once people started buying my dog treats. Listen, Angie, let me tell you something. When I was at those bazaars, I couldn't even set up my table fast enough. As soon as people saw that I was setting up my table, listen, girl, okay, I would be putting out my tablecloth, and people are like, Tail-Labrations dog treats, right? I'm like, yes. They were like, oh, okay. I can I get a bag real quick? And I'm like, I'm not turning out any money, and
People
even
love their pets. They love their dogs. They treat them like human beings.
Listen, I treat my dogs.
You are right. You are in the right market, baby. Trust and believe.
I
You
know.
already know.
So people would literally be lined up, and I wouldn't even have my stuff on the table yet, and people were buying up my treats, and it just spun from there. And then one lady at the job, she says, well, my dog is kind of allergic to stuff. Is there a way you can make some grain-free treats? And I said, challenge accepted. I told her, I said, let me play with some. I'll bring you some to test out with your dogs. So that birthed my grain-free flavors. And so I tested them out with her dog and other people dogs. And I was going to pet adoption fairs, and some people were not believers, and they would have their dogs, and I would always have the dog treat samples on the table. And they'd be like, oh, my dog is not going to like your treats, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, let me just try. And I would give their dog a little taste, and they would love it. And people would be like, oh my God, I got to buy a bunch of bags, So that's how I started. And I got a business plan done. Like I said, I got licensed, my recipes got analyzed. So I have my guaranteed analysis. So I got really serious about it. I went to pet expos out of Michigan. I went to real pet expos. I went to one in Orlando, and I went to one in Vegas, got exposure to different companies. This is just a multi-billion-dollar business.
Yes, it is.
And when I went to those pet expos, it was funny because I didn't see a lot of women that look like me, right? You saw, everybody else, but you saw maybe 1, 2, 3 Black people, but that was it. Now, I do notice I haven't been to a pet expo in a couple of years since COVID, but I do keep up, and I do see pictures, and I follow, and I watch videos, because I am gonna get back to going. I see more people of color, more Black women and Black men are going to. And so I was like, this summer, I was really shocked at the pictures and the videos that I saw of so many more Black people at those expos. And I was so excited because I felt kind of uncomfortable,
of course.
I was like their very first pet expo that I went to back in 2016. I was the only Black woman that I saw. The 3 days I was there, I saw a couple of Black men who were working there. I never saw a Black woman. I would sit in seminars and stuff like that and talk to people, and I never saw them. And it was kind of unnerving. And I was like, this got to change. because there's room
Yeah.
for everybody, and so
Mhm.
now it's just an explosion. There's people all over, Black women all
Good.
over who are opening up dog boutiques, clothing boutiques, people who are doing treats, Black women and men, groomers. We're out here and we're coming out here, and so
Yeah.
we're trying to get our foot and get a corner of this market because it really is multi-billion dollar.
That's amazing. What I love about this story, and honey, that's a story, is that you persevered through it all, even through being uncomfortable,
Mhm.
attending the events.
Oh yeah.
You persevered, you saw that there was an opportunity and you went for it. And I just love that. I want to move on really quickly to for you to share your journey in the advertising and marketing space and how your extensive corporate experience has shaped your career, even as it relates to Tail-Labrations. I know that
Mhm.
that was just a no-brainer. Listen, I know how to market. I love my dogs and I love, other people's dogs and want to give them my treats. So here we go. So talk to me about that.
So I got into advertising and marketing kind of by accident. I went
Mhm.
and got my degree in telecommunications, specializing in radio, TV, film. So my goal was to be a news anchor. That's what I
Mhm.
went to school for, journalism. And I said I was going to be a news anchor, and then I was going to spin that off into a talk television talk show, and I was going to be the next Oprah. Once I got into college and started doing journalism, and they started sending me to do stories in rural areas, I didn't like it. I was really uncomfortable because I was going in the sticks, and
Yeah.
tracking stories, and it was kind of scary. And I didn't like anybody telling me to write a story and trying to make it interesting. I just didn't like that. And
Mhm.
I was just like,
Yeah.
I'm a good storyteller, but I don't think I'm that good, and I wanted to be in front of the TV, but the camera, but I was like, I don't know if this is for me. So I was working at a job, and
Mhm.
I had came home from Michigan State, and I was finishing up my degree at Wayne State, and I was working full time. And this medical pharmaceutical rep, she came up to me and she was like, your personality is so bubbly and you're just so friendly. I would love for you to be a pharmaceutical sales rep. But she was like, but I think, I told her what I went to college for and what I had literally just graduated. I told her, and she says, well, what have you ever thought about advertising and marketing, going behind the scenes and making commercials and stuff like that? And I was like, no, I never considered that. And she's like, you should. So I took that to heart and I started researching advertising companies in the area. And I got my foot in the door with a large ad agency that used to be here called BBDO Detroit. I got my foot in the door as a secretary in the
Mhm.
traffic department. So the traffic department is actually who sent the department that gets the actual commercials to the TV and radio stations. So it's their job once it's finished to get it out the door and get it to the stations. So it's
Mhm.
crazy busy because you're
Mhm.
trying to hit these deadlines, and it was just nuts. But I thrived off of that and I liked it, and it was something I could do really well. And I was working at a all white agency. I was yet again the only Black woman there. Out of
Mhm.
300 employees, I was the only Black woman, and it was three Black men. And so that was uncomfortable, but we went to Southfield. We were diverse. I had a lot of white friends, so it just didn't matter. I could, Michigan State, I got along with everybody. So it didn't matter.
Mhm.
So I started working there and I liked it. And so I started seeing different career paths the way I could do it. So one of my friends who has now since passed, one of the Black guys that worked there, he told me, you know what, I think you would really excel if you worked at a Black agency. I think you really would do good. And across the parking lot is a Black agency in the Travelers building here in Southfield. So I said, really? I never knew that existed. I never knew Black agent advertising agencies existed at all. And he was like, yeah, they do. They're small, but they're good. They're here. So
Mhm.
he knew somebody, got me an interview, and I got in at Don Coleman Advertising, which changed its name to Global Q. And that's where I really got my feet wet. At a
Mhm.
Black agency was different from a Black or a multicultural agency is different from a white agency. Is white agencies, they're very layered, right? So you come
Mhm.
in, you get a job, your job title, and this is what you do. You're going to do A, B, C, D, and E, and that's it. Well, at a
Mhm.
Black agency or multicultural agency, it's a lot smaller. So you're going to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like you're going to wear many hats,
Yeah.
and really good. And I like that. So once I got at Don
Mhm.
Coleman, I came in through the traffic department. My boss, who actually happened to be a white woman, she really liked that my personality, and she liked that I had a go getter attitude, and I worked hard, and I had a really good work ethic. So I came in and I like mastered my job within a couple of months. And so she
Mhm.
promoted me to a manager. And then I started having people report into me, and she invested a lot in me. She sent me to a lot of seminars to learn how to
Awesome.
be a manager
Mhm.
and a leader. And I took a lot of points from her, and then I saw things that I liked that she did, and things that my past bosses did that I liked and I didn't like, and I just kind of
Mhm.
and then as people started reporting into me, I don't want to seem like I'm telling everybody what to do and I'm just this boss, and I'm
Mhm.
untouchable, and I'm unreachable. So my approach became very different. I was a very approachable boss. I talked to people. I wanted to know what they thought, because I was always a firm believer that if you have people feel like they're part of the solution, then they're going to help solve the problem, right? Instead of you
Right.
coming in barking orders and telling people, hey, I'm the new king, the boss in town, I'm the new sheriff in town, and this is how I'm going to change, and this is the things I want done in this department, and you're going to do X, Y, Z, and all of this stuff. Of course,
Mhm.
you have to have a process, and people have to have a job description, and they have to do things, and they have to do their daily duties. But I don't like to be a taskmaster. So I just was, so I asked them, what could we do to make your job easier? And I gave people a lot of responsibility, and I also gave them a lot of wiggle room, because I'm like, look, I'm not about to micromanage you. I got a lot on my plate. I cannot sit and do your job and my job too. Because if I got to do your job and my job, I want your paycheck, because I'm not going to do your job and mine, and I need to do my job good. And because I have a very strong work ethic, and I take pride into my work, and I want to do an excellent job, and I'm very thorough. So and my whole thing is this: you just give people enough rope, they'll hang themselves if they're terrible, and if people want to do
Mhm.
good, they're going to do good. And if you are a good boss, people are going to want to work for you. I always went out of my way to be a very good boss, very fair, not mean. Now, of course, there probably were some people along the way that didn't like me as a boss, and you're going to get that. But
Mhm.
I will say 50 people that I've hired and worked for me, 48 of them liked me, right? And I'm not trying to brag on myself, but I
Yeah.
just feel like I was just a really good boss. I
Mhm.
gave you your freedom. I let you do yourself. I always had an open door policy to let you know. So that was kind of my drive, is I felt really good when I had people working for me. I always felt good having a good team, and I strive to be excellent, and I tried to do
Mhm.
work. So that was always been my work ethic, and that got me all the way to where I'm at now. So I'm a director of talent and business affairs. So, like I told you, I still work for I don't work for Global Hue anymore. I work for another advertising agency, a multicultural advertising agency called Uniworld Group. And they're
Mhm.
located in Dearborn. Our headquarters is in Brooklyn, and our one of our main offices is in Dearborn, because our one of our largest client is Ford Motor Company. So right now we do have office space there, but we work from home. But I wear many hats still,
Mhm.
because working for a multicultural agency, that's what you do.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
thrive off of that. I'm bored if I
Mhm.
have just one thing. So
Mhm. Mhm.
to I always try to be a teacher. I right now, the people that reported me always say, like my talent manager now, she says, I just love you, boss lady. Everybody calls me boss lady. They're like, I just love you,
Mhm.
because I'm not a selfish boss. So I don't try to hog everything, and I don't try to hold you down and
I
stop
love that.
selling. I teach you, because my thought is, Angie, if you came to work for me and you became my talent manager, I'm going to teach you everything I know, because guess what? Number one, if you're good, that makes me look good. That's number one.
Mhm.
Number two,
Mhm.
if I can teach you how to do your job and then teach you how to do my job, then I can move up and I won't be
Mhm.
stagnant. Then when I go on vacation or if I'm homesick or whatever, I need you to be able to do some of my job so I can be on
Mhm. Mhm.
vacation or I can be sick, or I can have a
Mhm.
personal day. I don't feel threatened that the person that's under me is going to take my job, because the only way somebody can take my job is if my boss lets them, and so then it wasn't mine anyway, so God has something else for me, so I'm going to move on. So I don't have that kind of threat. I feel like I need to teach you. I want you to be good. I want you to want my job. You should. That's
Mhm.
one thing that my boss that at Don Coleman, my white boss, taught me. She was like, you should always want to excel and have my job. And I took
Mhm.
that ethic and I do the same thing with my people. So I teach you, this is how I do. So I took all of that. I've been in the advertising field almost 30 years, 29 years. I took that and I became a teacher at
Mhm.
several community colleges, and I've taught advertising and marketing and, surprisingly, intro to business. So to teach
Mhm.
people how to get businesses started, and I enjoy teaching because I really like
Mhm.
teaching people, because knowledge is
Mhm.
power, and
It is.
you cannot be selfish out here. And the stuff comes back to you. If you're good and you teach people, I always wanted people, like I said before, always wanted to work for me. And when I was at Global Q,
Mhm.
people always, I heard about you and I want to come work for you. And I had a lot of my team members, a lot of them didn't even want to get promoted and move, because we had such a fun team. I mean, I would do fun things with my teams. We would always in the summer take a day. I would request that we take a day off, and of course the company sponsor, and we do a field trip, or I would just take my team to lunch and I would just pay for it.
Mhm.
We did breakfast Wednesdays, and everybody took a turn and brought something for breakfast, and we would sit in my office and have breakfast and kick it. And Fridays we had traffic roll Fridays, and
Mhm.
at 4 o'clock every Friday we would stop and play music and dance and just have a dance shake
Mhm.
off and let the stress, of the week. And sometimes
Yes.
we in the middle of the week and we would just be like, time dance break, and we would do that for 10 or 15 minutes. My department was so much fun. My One of my old bosses told me I'm not being the adult and I'm being too much of the kid, being a kid with the kids. He used to call the people who
Oh
reported.
my goodness.
And I'm like, look, but guess what? Every time I asked them to stay late or work for me or do something extra, they did it. People did it because
Mhm.
they enjoyed it. We would
Yes,
stop.
because you showed that emotional intelligence. You showed that
Mhm,
you can lead without a hard, hand.
mhm,
I absolutely love that story. We need more leaders like you. And I want to move into the community, your community and personal life. Like you're
mhm.
deeply connected to your community through your sorority, Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated,
Yeah.
and your work with, of course, your beloved aging parents. How do these roles shape your perspective as a business owner and leader?
Well, that's kind of a hard question. I guess it's kind of hard, or it's
Mhm.
very complex in many layers. But being in my sorority, and like you said, my beloved sorority, I love my being a Delta.
I
And
actually said your beloved parents, but
oh, well, sorry. My beloved parents too. But we'll start with Delta. So I love my sorority and I'm very dedicated and we do a lot for the
Mhm,
community. And being in the sorority really broadened my horizons, and we work with all type of
mhm,
people in the community. We work with young people. We have so many committees, and the committees range from working with very young kids to working with older people. And I've kind of
mhm,
dabbled in a lot of all of it, and it just
mhm,
really, it gives you a passion and empathy and just the sympathy to work with people and help people and just really,
mhm,
just want to give. and it feels good to give, and
Mhm.
you just give back in you, and then just the love that we love on our sorors when we see them young and old. And it's so funny because you can be really really good friends with a Delta deer who is somebody that's over 65 or 62, and you could be really, because I have a lot of good friends that are Delta deers, and they're, some
Mhm.
of them are as old as my mom, but that's my girl, and look, some of them Delta
Yeah.
deers will kick it, and they be like, come on over and let's get some wine going and get some drinks, and you know and they're really fun. And then I got some really young sorors who, again, I'm helping them get into advertising and marketing and
Mhm.
shaping. So, and then, like I said, we go out to the community and we go to senior homes. And when I say senior homes, like
Mhm.
nursing homes, and help the seniors. And,
Yeah.
and years
Mhm.
ago, I had never really done that before. And I had went and was helping the seniors. We were going at Christmas, going caroling, and there was a couple times we went and we just helped some of the women that were in the nursing home that don't get visits. We were doing their nails and their makeup and reading to them and just spending time with them, and we give them cards all the time and write them letters and stuff like that.
Oh,
And that
that's
just,
amazing.
yeah, and it gave me a chance to really see that side, of how when you're young, you just kind of don't think about that until it happens to you, or somebody in your family. And so it gave me that exposure already, and now that my parents are aging and they both got sick back to back. My mother got really ill last year out of the blue and ended up in the ICU and in a rehab, but she's better. She's 100%
Mm.
better. Thank you, Jesus. I mean, God touched her and she has
Yeah, thank
fully
you, Jesus. Yeah.
recovered. And then right
Mhm.
after my mother got sick, I got sick actually. And I didn't put it
Mhm.
out on Facebook a lot, or at all. Only personal friends knew. But I mean, literally last November, around this time, my mother was well enough to go home and live on her own. And then I ended up
Mhm.
having to have surgery myself, major surgery.
Oh,
So I
wow.
was shut down for the whole month of December. And right when I was about to go back to work, my doctor literally on a Thursday had wrote me my you go back to work on Monday. And we work from home, but there was a couple of days a week we were going back in the office, and he was like, you can go back
Mhm.
in. He gave me that letter on Thursday.
Mhm.
That Sunday, my dad called me and was like, you need to take me to the hospital. And that was February 4th. And my dad went in the hospital and stayed for 8 months. He was in ICU in Carmanos for almost 3 months. I mean, my dad almost died
Mhm.
several times. He was in between Carmanos, Harper Hospital, and the VA hospital ICU, and then in
Mhm.
LTEX, and then rehab. But God is good. He is home. We found out he had two cancers, and it almost took him out. But even today, we went to see his cancer doctor, and his prostate cancer is, the numbers, he was in triple numbers, and now he's down to like 1.5 or something
Mhm.
like that. And his lymphoma is really
Mhm.
not doing anything. The tumors have shrunk and everything, and he's home, and I'm caregiving a lot. So I had to caregive for my mom, but I caregive for my dad and work.
Mhm.
And my job has been really good to me.
Yeah. Yeah, when our parents go through things and we advocate for them and we advocate for ourselves, we learn a lot. We learn a whole lot, and we have family that go through. My mom, I lost her in April, and we advocated for her. She was not alone. She took us to we were on the call on the phone, or we were on a call, or we went in the office with her when we would be in town, because we wanted
Mhm.
to make sure that we were present and they understood that she had
But she had family.
children,
Yep.
4 children that
Yep.
were, and her husband, my dad, that were
Mhm.
invested in her health.
Okay. Yep.
So I listen, hats off. And you're an only child, correct?
Yes, and I have a half sister on my dad's side,
Yeah,
but I between my parents, so I'm the main caregiver for both my
yeah,
parents. I
yeah.
just
And so my hat goes off to you, Nicole, because
oh,
you
thank you.
persevered. And like you said, it takes a community. So Strange to your community of Delta Sigma Theta, and to your just your job. They are your community too,
They
because they
are.
stood by you.
Oh yeah.
And that's Amazing. I love that. And I want to go into that part of it, supporting women. And because many women struggle to balance their
Mhm.
passions, their careers, and their personal lives. What advice would you give women seeking to pursue their passions while managing all the things, all the responsibilities?
The only advice I could really give, because it's hard. It's hard. I'm
Mhm,
not gonna lie.
mhm,
You
mhm.
know, some things have to give. You got to sacrifice some things. But you got to prioritize yourself. And one thing I had a hard time learning over the last 18 months or so is that I can't feel guilty about trying to take care of myself. And you have to take a break, but it's okay to let something give to swap out for something and you can get back to it. That's the advice I would tell people, women.
Yeah.
You can do it all, but don't kill yourself trying to do it, right? So like Tail-Labrations, I still bake my dog treats, I still make my
Yeah.
dog baskets, but because my parents have been ill for the last year and a half, have not been able to go and do as many
Mhm.
pet adoption fairs. Like there's Noel night is coming up this weekend, and Tech Town asked me to do it once again. And I love Noel night, but I just couldn't because I don't have time to bake a million dog treats and sit there all day because I
Right.
caregive for my dad most of the time. We does have caregivers,
Yeah.
but I am also a
Mhm.
caregiver there. It's a
Right.
balance. I do 3 days. Well,
Yeah.
for the last month, I've been doing almost every day. I've been doing every day. It's really tired.
Mm.
But anyway, I
Yeah.
got a new system, new group of caregivers who started this week. So it's hopefully it's gonna level off. You just have to let stuff go, some things and just get back
Mhm.
to it and know you're gonna get back to it. Cause like Tail-Labrations, I keep it going, but I don't do
Yeah.
it as much. A lot of people have asked, "Oh, you still doing the dog treats?" I'm like, "Yeah, I still do the dog treats. I have regular customers. I still bake when I can. I just
Mhm.
don't kill myself to do it because I can't right now because I'm caring for my
Yeah.
dad." Before COVID, I was on my way of opening up a store, a brick and mortar for Tail-Labrations, and then COVID
Oh, nice.
literally, like the week or two before they shut down the world, I literally was out I was with a real estate person looking for space to open up a brick and mortar downtown Detroit. And all I got that got shut down. But then over during COVID, I got the opportunity to buy a lake house in Idlewild, with that you mentioned at the beginning of the show. And I was able to purchase a house at a good price and renovate it. And so Tail-Labrations had to take a back seat, so to speak. I mean, I still did it, but this investment in this house was important. So I was like, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. Let me do that. So, it's just a balance. I was like, let me get my house together because this is valuable, and this is an opportunity to have
Mhm.
something. So I did that, but I'm gonna get back to Tail-Labrations. And like I said, I didn't let it fall off. Even with
Mm.
my sorority, I'm busy with them, but for a while, with my parents, I wasn't as busy. I had to step back a little bit because I had to do this stuff. So it's a balance. You can do it all, but
Yeah.
don't beat yourself up. And that's what I'm gonna do. So you
Mhm.
have to allow yourself that, and set goals.
Indeed. I love that. I love it's such great advice. And it's interesting that you would say that because at the top of the year, that's what I call this year for what I do. I called it Prioritize Yourself 2024. So
Yep.
I find in my work as a fitness and wellness coach, supporting women over 35, that helping them prioritize themselves while balancing life's demands is transformative. Everything that you just said is transformative because we do not put ourselves in the front. We always put ourselves in the back. A lot of
Always.
times life calls for that, like taking care of aging parents. But even in the midst, like you said, we must prioritize our health so that we can be some good to them,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, have you found that your work resonates with a similar message of creating balance and purpose? I have heard you say that. I've heard you say And what other things could you share with the audience about what you're doing to create balance and purpose?
Well, like I said, when it comes to work, I try to be very organized. I try to be very balanced with work, but I try not to stress out. It used to stress me out a lot where I used to get migraines all the time, and that was no good. So I had to learn that everything can't be accomplished in a day for work. I had to let that go because that was stressing me
Mhm.
out. Like everybody would ask me to do something and I tried to make it happen right then because I'm a person that's like to get stuff done. I don't like to linger it and I don't like stuff sitting on my desk and and people saying, "Oh, it took her forever to give me something." It's like, "No, let me get it done now." Well, I had to let that go. Okay? Cuz I was like,
Mhm.
"Nicole, if you can do it today, do it today. But if you can't, it's okay. You can do it tomorrow or get it done by the end of the week or set a goal to have it
Mhm.
done by a certain day next week. But I always give myself a deadline. I'm a project manager by nature and I do that at work too. That's one of my hats, project management. And so I give myself deadlines and I give myself deadlines throughout life, right? So not just work. I give myself deadlines to do stuff. So that would be my advice. Give yourself deadlines, but give yourself some grace, because you can create
Mhm.
a deadline. The deadline, because of life, will fall through, and don't beat yourself up about it, because stuff
Mhm.
happens that you just can't control. And I had to learn
Yeah.
that the hard way, like I had this, and God probably was like, yeah, no, that's not happening, and life just blew up. It's like, oh my God, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
and it humbled me a lot. And it was just like, wow. But like I said, just to keep yourself focused and to me and try to keep yourself in line so you're not scattered everywhere. That's why I said get yourself some goals and a deadline. But if you don't meet that deadline, it's okay.
Mhm.
Just revamp the deadline. That's all. Just push it back and try to
Yeah.
do it. And sometimes something else has to come in front of that deadline, and that happens, So the one of the best advice I got from somebody was do something good for you. And not just going to get your hair done or your nails done or a massage. Do something big for you. And like I've been caregiving for my parents. And one of the things I decided to do for myself was buy myself a new bedroom set and change up the whole look
Mm.
in my bedroom. So I'm excited about
Mhm.
I'm changing the ceiling fan, I bought a new bed, all this stuff, you know,
Mhm.
and it makes me feel good because I did this solely for me.
I love it.
And
It's the little things, right?
it's the little
Some
things.
people may think that a bedroom is not a big deal. I want a trip to Africa, but you said I need a sanctuary in my home, and that's what I'm going to do big for me, and I absolutely love it. You are a phenomenal woman,
Thank
Nicole.
you.
I
Thank
am
you.
so glad that to have you here and to share you with my audience. And I just have one final question for you.
Sure.
What legacy do you hope to leave, not just through your businesses, but in the lives of those you've touched, your employees that call you boss lady, of course, your parents, of course, everyone around you. What legacy do you hope to leave?
Unfortunately, I don't have any children, so I can't leave that legacy. I can't have a
Well, the
legacy.
boss lady people at work, those are your children.
Right, those
We
my
can,
children, my dogs, but I don't have any human kids, personal
yeah,
kids to live a legacy like a daughter for her to be my
yeah,
legacy for my sorority
yeah,
or in anything. But one of the things I've been doing in my life, and I didn't get a chance to talk a whole lot about it at all, is I'm a big advocate for Idlewild, trying to restore that community. And I
yeah,
would like to be, which people know me as the person who talks about Idlewild, and I like that helping history of revitalizing that, and that's part of my legacy and my house. How whoever it gets passed down to,
mhm,
however I do it, that's going to be my legacy. My also, I think about this all the time as my legacy that I would like to leave is I always wanted people to know me and think of me at my funeral or memorial service, because I really don't want to have a funeral, but a memorial service, because I think it's just too much with the whole casket thing.
It's too much.
It's too much. And I've been to memorial services and I'm like, I like this better. It's a little better. You got
Less
pictures and
sad, right? Less sad.
yeah, like it's just a little bit better. And I said, but I want people to really say, you know what, Nicole was a good person and she was nice and she
Mhm.
helped you, helped you out and she did things for you and she was a caring person and she was a person that motivated you and she gave you, a lot of knowledge and she was a person that really pushed you to do stuff and the other thing that ties into that is one day I went to a luncheon and I heard one of our past national presidents in my sorority say this. And then I went to another luncheon a couple of weeks after and I heard Al Sharpton say the same thing. And I always think they said that both of their speeches were, what are you doing with your dash? I live by that all the time. And I sit up here and I say, that is my legacy. What am I doing with my dash? And I always think of what else can I be doing to help not just myself, but my friends, my family,
Yeah.
my community. You know, I don't want people to say Nicole was selfish or she all she thought about
Mhm.
was herself. But when she left here, she left a huge legacy of, she, like I said, she pushed people to buy and help revitalize
Mhm.
Idlewild. She helped push people to help your neighbor, and she helped push a pet shelter to get
Mhm.
built. So many people have told me, Nicole, I wasn't even a dog person until you, and you made me love dogs and open me up to that. And that might seem silly to some people, but it's a big deal, because have owning a pet and really caring for a pet really
Mhm.
makes you soft. You become a whole different person. You see things differently. And I've
Mhm.
heard so many hardcore people become softies because they have a dog. That's my legacy, is that, I was a kind person, a person that helped. I I'm about business and I don't play, but don't get it twisted. I'm about my
Yeah.
business. I can be firm and stern, but I also am very fair.
Yeah.
And I like to be helpful and kind and I like to connect people and I like to have fun and I like to smile. And people always say that, Nicole, your smile is infectious and you're passionate and you're so bubbly and you're always like this, and I like that, and I try to be like that all the time. I don't want to be a grumpy
Mhm.
person and a mean person and people like, oh, I
Right.
don't like her, I don't want to be around her. I just hope I left a good impression for people and for people to want to do better and take care of your parents and your grandparents because you're
That's
supposed
the
to.
word, baby. You can't get away from the word of God.
You
It says
cannot.
that it's a commandment.
It's a
You have
commandment.
to do it.
And your
Yes, you have
days
to do it.
will
I don't care
be
what they did
long.
to you.
Right. Your
Yes.
days will be long. You have to honor your parents.
But definitely be good to your parents. I love that you ended with that because that is, if you have parents, that is law. Period.
Yep. You have
Thank
to
you
be
so
good.
much, Nicole. Oh
Well,
my
thank you
gosh,
for having me. Thank you for
you're
having
such a phenomenal woman. And I'm so,
you.
again,
And
I just can't say enough how happy I am to share you with our audience and just even to learn things about you that I didn't know. You are amazing. Thank
so
you
are
so much for
you for
joining me.
doing this and having
Thank
positivity
you.
and having your classes that I should get back on to do it.
Thank you. Thank you. We have to lift up our community of women and our community of people. We have to just continue that and to show that there is still love and positivity. Even when you're going through the worst time, you got to still show people that there's life after, getting a sucker punch like we
Oh,
got. Uh, you got to continue. That's the purpose God placed us here to have a positive impact on
mhm.
his people and
Yes,
and
it
and
is.
share his word. So thank you, Nicole.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
hanging in there with me tonight.
Oh,
Only
no,
we know what we went through tonight.
no
And
problem.
I hope to have you back on soon.
Yeah,
Enjoy the rest of your
anytime.
evening.
Just let me know anytime. This was great.